Hey everybody, this TED Talk is about democracy. So, to bring this topic up, I brought a definition from the Cambridge Dictionary that says democracy is the belief in freedom and equality between people, or a system of government based on this belief, in which power is either held by elected representatives or directly by the people themselves. Today we are going to talk about democracy in Brazil, and this subject is extremely important because we're living in a context that really requires that. You probably heard about a candidate for presidency who is spreading Brazilian democracy. So, in 1964, there was a military coup in Brazil, and that means that between 1964 and 1985, the country didn't live in a democracy. It was an authoritarian military dictatorship. So, during this period of time, there was no election, and besides that, the civil freedom of speech and political opposition. So, whoever didn't agree with the government and say something about it was either arrested, tortured, and sometimes even killed. The military dictatorship ended in 1985, and since then we're living a democracy. The reason that I'm bringing that up is because in this year election there is an anti-democratic candidate that is Jair Bolsonaro. You probably heard about him, especially after the hashtag #EleNão. So, in this TED Talk, I'm going to prove that the election of Bolsonaro is against the democracy. So, at first, if you look at the definition of democracy, it says that the belief in freedom and equality between people, or a system of a government based on this belief. It makes us conclude that Bolsonaro, to be a democratic, he has to believe that everybody has the same rights. Am I right? So, the candidate has a long history of offensive remarks about women, immigrants, black people, and LGBTQ. Last year, by Ms. Bolsonaro, he spoke about black settlement in Brazil founded by the descendants of slaves. They do nothing. They are not even good for procreation, he said. He also has reported referring to a black activist as animals who should go back to the zoo. In 2014, Mr. Bolsonaro got into a heated exchange with a congresswoman named Maria de Rosario. He said, I wouldn't rape you because you don't deserve it. He also said that he wouldn't employ men and women with the same payment, making clear that he doesn't believe in equal rights. In an interview with Playboy magazine in 2011, Bolsonaro said he would be incapable of loving a homosexual son, and he would prefer his son to die in an accident than show up in his house with a man. And he also said in 2017, in an interview that he's a homophobic and he is proud about that. So, taking these statements into account, it's impossible to think that a man who believes that women, immigrants, black people, and LGBT people don't deserve the same rights and are equal, we can consider democratic and put him in the highest position in the system of government based on this belief. So, you can put someone that is not a democratic by definition in the highest position of democracy. I think for me it's pretty obvious about that. But so, bringing back the dictatorship topic to the lecture, we all agree that this kind of government isn't a system democratic. Once there is no election, freedom of expression, no possibility of political opposition distinct for the current government, and is in favor of torture. So, Bolsonaro defends the system. In 1999 television interview, he said, I'm in favor of torture, you know that, and the people are in favor too. Through the vote, you will not change anything in this country. Anything. Absolutely nothing. Things will change, unfortunately, the day we start a civil war in here. And doing the work that the military regime did not do, killing about 3,100. Some innocent will die. It's okay. So, it's pretty clear that he's in favor of the dictatorship, and his election could lead us to a military coup. I'm not saying it's actually going to happen, we don't know yet, but I think it's pretty clear that someone who defends the system is not a democratic. Another proof is that in 2016 he dedicated his vote in favor of impeachment democratically elected President Dilma Rousseff to Coronel Carlos Brilhante Ustra. And this guy was tortured in the age of dictatorship, who tortured Dilma and so many other people. He was like the biggest torturer in Brazil. And he said, in memory of Carlos Alberto Brilhante Ustra, the terror of Dilma Rousseff, he says prior to casting his vote. So, recently, he said that he wasn't going to accept if he doesn't win the elections. Besides the points I already told you, Bolsonaro is a man who doesn't accept critics. So, if you criticize him, he just gets really defensive and start insulting you, telling you to shut up. If you saw any of his interviews, it's really clear that point. And I think in a democracy, the dialogue between people and the government is one of the most essential points, because the government is a representation of the people, and if the people doesn't get listening, how is going to represent the people? Doesn't make any sense. And that is one point that I think is really important when you think about Bolsonaro. And also, recently, a lot of universities that shown their opinion against Bolsonaro has been shut down and by the police, and said that they can do propaganda against him. But we live in a democracy, so you should be able to do that. So I think it's really odd. And so if you count on all the points that I brought it up in the TED Talk, I think it's really clear that the Bolsonaro is not a democratic and shouldn't be the next Brazilian president. So we are 2 days away of this election, so vote well, and I just hope the best for Brazil.